I practiced many methods of the practice of Dharma, but I did not understand the characteristic of Buddhism. In my understanding at that time, Buddhism was temples and monks and Buddha images. Buddhism was a matter of these external things. My father was a Buddhist, my mother was a Buddhist. I was born a Buddhist, and I have been a Buddhist 100%. But I did not understand what Buddhism was and where Buddhism is. When I was 11 years old, I ordained as a samanera. During that time, I practiced mind development, I practiced meditation. The method at that time that I was taught by my teacher was to sit still with my eyes closed and to practice concentrating on the in and out breath using the paramika, the mantra word, Bhutto. Later, I had a teacher who came from the north who taught that the developing of awareness and wisdom, or the development of insight, we have to ascend step by step, and it is impossible to go to the highest immediately. What is this step-by-step progress? This teacher taught that the step-by-step progress was to count from 1 to 10 on each in and out breath, and then to count back down from 10 to 1 with the in and out breath, and that this counting in accordance with the breath was the step-by-step progress. As well as that, I practiced another method in which, with the in and out breaths, I used the terms Sama Arahang, and I practiced this way for a long time. Later on, I met another teacher who taught a very similar method, except the words were different. And this time, when we breathe out, we said falling, and we breathe in, we say rising. And we practice in this way. If somebody comes and speaks to us and we feel dissatisfied, then we label our feeling dissatisfaction, dissatisfaction. This method I also practiced for a long time. Later on, I practiced anapanasati, mindfulness of the in and out breath, which is the same thing, but again the words are slightly different. And here we are aware of the in and out breath, if it is short or if it is long, if it is rough or if it is subtle. But as with all these methods, we attach to the breath. All of these methods were taught as being vipassana, insight, but I did not have any insight. I just knew from memory. The teachers taught that insight means to know clearly and to know really, but I only knew from memory. Practicing in these ways, I did not have insight, but I had calmness. I got a kind of calmness, but that is the calmness of being under the sway of delusion. It is the calmness of being asleep. It is the calmness of not knowing. So that even though I had this kind of calmness, I still had anxiety and I still had doubt because I did not understand. During most of this time, I was a layperson, but I was interested in Dharma. I was looking for Dharma. I understood that if I found Dharma, I would have powers. I would attain powers, witty powers, and I was interested in this. I was someone who was very, very interested in Dharma, but when we think wrongly, then we search wrongly, and we find teachers that don't understand. And when the teachers don't know, and they teach us, then we also don't know. So with wrong thinking, I was looking for Dharma, and because my parents had devoted a lot of time to giving charity, helping monks, to keeping precepts, and so on, then I did these things also, thinking that these things would lead me to Dharma. So I spent a great deal of time looking for Dharma in this way. I listened to the older people when they talked, and I listened to teachers. I liked very much to listen to old people and to listen to the teachers. And I spent a lot of time supporting monks and keeping precepts, taking precepts and keeping precepts. And I built religious buildings. I built Uposatha halls and viharas. So I was involved in trying to attain merit, or punya. It really means grace. But I did not understand punya. And the people that were teaching me were people that did not have punya. So if we are taught what punya is by people that don't have it, then we will not understand it. If we want punya, we have to search to find a teacher that has it, that has punya. So we should consider very closely in order to understand, to see and to know for ourselves, so that we can look for someone that has punya, and we can recognize someone that has punya. So this is the very first problem, the problem of what happens when we look for a teacher. Usually when we look for a teacher, we wish to have someone who is famous, who is very well known, someone that is very respectable and someone that we can venerate very easily. When I was in my middle 40s, I met a teacher that I felt very close to, and for more than a year, almost 2 years, I paid a lot of attention to his teaching, and I considered his teaching, and I decided to follow his teaching. So at the time when I went to practice, this teacher was not living where I went to practice. He was staying somewhere else. But he told me to go and practice with a disciple of his, who was a very old monk, 70 of age, and so I went to practice with him. So this teacher was teaching a slight variant of the method that I had been practicing, and so with the in and out breath, we were to use the word die or death, and this was taught as being mindfulness of death. So when I went to practice this way, I felt quite dissatisfied because this was the ways that I'd been practicing for so many years already, and it was a way that did not lead to any lightening of my load, and so I decided that I would just sleep. So I would like to tell you the truth about what happened at this time when I went to practice. I would like you to not think that I am trying to show off. I just have this truth to talk about, and this is all that I have. If I cannot recommend this truth that I know, then I have nothing to recommend at all. So I have to talk about the truth. So when I first went to practice Dharma, the first thing that I understood was Sumuti, convention. So I will speak about this. The teacher taught about this, but in all likelihood he did not understand himself, because later when I spoke to him, he had no idea what I was talking about. At that time there were 23 monks and 5 other lay people who came to practice together, but the knowledge that I attained was not the same as what these other people knew. So at that time I was sleeping, and I woke up and I asked myself why I had come. I'd come to practice Dharma. So I got up and I started to do this practice of breathing in and out, saying the word die. But this practice made me feel very lazy, so I would go back to sleep again, then get up and practice again, and go back to sleep again. After a while I decided that the next day I would get up and I would really practice Dharma. And it was with that in mind that I went to sleep that last evening. The next morning I awoke very, very early, and I set my mind to really practice Dharma. I brushed my teeth and I cleaned my face, washed my face, and I emerged and I practiced this method of turning up the hand and turning down the hand, of raising the arm and lowering the arm. And I practiced this method of knowing the movements, and I let go of the methods that I've been practicing. This way of knowing the movements of the body, I did not have to practice very long before I had knowledge arise, just 2 days. So it was 5 o'clock in the morning when I had knowledge arise. At that time I was wearing shorts because I was a layman, and a scorpion fell upon my leg, and as I watched it I considered the scorpion and myself, and I had knowledge arise that my leg was matter and it was name, it was body and it was mind, it was rupa and nama. And scorpion, it was the same thing. It too was rupa and nama. It too was body and mind. This knowledge that arose is called jnana, the jnana of panya, the knowledge that comes from knowing, from awareness knowing. When we have this jnana, we cannot forget and we cannot be deluded. It is not something that comes from thought. It does not come in any way associated with thought. It is direct knowledge that comes from our direct awareness. So at that time I was filled with conviction, with certainty, and I wished to go and teach others, because I had already heard that when, as followers of the Dharma, as people that practice Dharma, we should live simply, we should live in a low way, we should eat and sleep in a low way, that we should do high work, lofty work, which is the work of the mind. And I had been taught this, and it has stayed in my mind from